We've done pretty well for a meeting going past our plans. We are down Miss Flynn. She had a spouse with a surgical procedure today that was planned long before us, but she did send me her notes and offered to keep checking her email tonight, and I said not to do that. I would share her thoughts when we get to that part. So, welcome everyone to our post, I guess, stakeholders meeting. We have a couple housekeeping things. We have a basketball game going on tonight that is senior night, and we have a senior, I presume, who is, with any luck, going to score his 1,000th point this evening. So we have Nate and Sadie with us for a short time at the beginning. They're very much needed in the gym. If anyone has time to spare, we have much to do, but I believe the basketball game should still be going at 7:30. I plan to head down there myself. It would be a great opportunity to see what a full gym looks like. So we are going to jump right to it, and we'll put the athletics piece at the top of our discussion. And public comment. Do you have any public comment? Okay. Just making sure. So I just thought it might be good to check in on what it is we're up to after having so many great meetings of hearing from our stakeholders in various programs of the district. And I went back to what is it that we're supposed to be doing. So our objectives were to complete the work of the prior bond committee, which was reactivated post-pandemic, interrupted in 2019, to provide the public responses to some questions and concerns at the listening session, and I have a reminder of what those are here tonight. To gather further public input on cafeteria, kitchen, stage, and athletic fields, and to finalize a proposal for the school board, and to finalize details for a public referendum. So obviously we were much more young and enthusiastic in November when these were written. So I think we've done a great job on gathering input from stakeholders and the public on our main topic areas, and I thought it would be nice to remind ourselves what the Dr. King referred us to the strategic plan right at the outset of this, and right in the strategic plan online, goal 3, all learners in SAD 15 will attend schools that have high quality indoor and outdoor facilities that meet academic, co-curricular, and other student service needs. Priorities in that strategic plan are to create a better space for bringing the community together for arts and cultural events, maintain and develop facilities, measure it with the established need. So that's already right in our strategic plan, which is a good reminder. This moving forward with a bond was already voted on to the positive by the school board. And the feedback from the listening session in April, where some draft materials were presented, very much a strong interest in meeting the needs of students in the district. Participants stressed the importance of a well-researched plan that included relevant stakeholders at all levels. Can we get more information on costs? Can we see a plan that includes performing arts, cafeteria, athletic spaces, fields, and gym? And are we fully addressing the needs across the district? I do have, and I'm happy to send to everybody, the exact comments from the community. I coded them by topic and then put them in order by quantity. So there were 15 comments about fields or gym. There were 21 comments that I just called meet the need, that really stressed get this done and do it right. 14 comments about please do careful research and planning and get your stakeholders on board. So I'm feeling pretty good about the work this group has done over the last month in restarting this with an eye towards getting it done right. So to that end, we have a neat chart here that our admin team has been working on and noodling around with ahead of this meeting. You'll see down and you have a hard copy of it in front of you, and down the one side we have all of sort of the asks, needs, presented thoughts, materials we've heard for athletics, and then arts and cafeteria. And then some thoughts across the top. Is this a must-have? Do we have a safety issue here? Is this should-have, an important initiative that has significant value? And so on. Could have, will not have, not a priority at this time. And then to keep in mind, what's the student impact? Is this a team specific? Is this everyone at the high school? Is this something that would actually be accessible to the whole district? And then other placeholder, does this meet strategic plan goals? Do we have further questions? So what I'm hoping we can do tonight is go through this to capture the thoughts of this team and from what we've heard and seen, and say what do we want? What do we recommend the board do from here? Are the plans that we have had so far adequate? Do we want to see new ones? How do we think that should happen? And I can represent us tomorrow with the school board and give an update on that. So I just talked for a long time. Knowing that our time with you is limited, Sadie, do you want to, I said athletics first, but you represent everybody. So yeah. Are there things you want to make sure?
Yeah, I just want to, and I know Nate and I have had conversations, so I can step in. He may be a while, the scoreboard went down.
Oh,
so
no.
He's trying to fix that.
Oh,
no. But just to make sure that when making any of these decisions, we're really keeping, obviously there's co-curricular, and that's very, very important, but just the academic use. So whether it's the cafeteria space, whether it's the auditorium, just the gymnasium space, just making sure that we're, again, providing that high quality education, and improving all of these spaces will definitely impact that programming as well.
Before we dive into this athletic section potentially, or I'm not sure if you're going to talk more, I know we talked last time about getting some prioritizing from the athletics department, so we can have that information about if we could only do certain parts, what would that look like, or what would they recommend or desire? Do we have that information?
Nate and I did talk about, we kind of went through all the different spaces just from an academic and also from an athletic standpoint, and then did the same with drama, music, so we can dive into that.
Okay. We also can run down these. I'm extremely open to feedback on how we do this or what feels useful. But in coming forward with a report, with coming forward with consensus, I want to make sure I represent, when I speak to the board, that I'm kind of talking about us as an item, not me as a person. And there's 12 of us. So we also, I know how the transportation team had looked at, sort of doing a little quickie poll on different things to get a little bit of a quickie vote to say like, wow, these things really seem to be what the group thought was most important. So we can run down these, read them out, throw up our hands for if we think it's a high, 4 to a 0, and then shout out, notes or things that we would want to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yep, and just one more thing, I did do the draft of the survey for students.
Yes.
We also could potentially add staff on that survey if we wanted, and just have an option so that way we gather that feedback at the same time. But I just wanted this group to take a look at that survey and see if there's anything that you want to modify, add.
I had it, I thought ready to go.
You can send it to you.
I just had tried to cleverly put everything up here so I didn't have to go through my email on a live stream. But I must have closed that one.
I just sent it to your email.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Here. Okay, so here is the, survey that was put together. I was thinking that too, like, would it be easy to give this to student and staff, because they're all here all day, right?
Yeah.
So it has a nice introduction, explaining the purpose of the survey, that we want to get your, student voice, and, goes right through, so grade level, and would be easy enough, right, to do a staff button. And then letting folks, indicate student performer, student athlete, someone who attends performing events, someone who attends athletic events, or none of the above, so that you could check as many of these that apply. Should give us a nice cross-section of, what the kids are doing, what they care about. And then cafeteria space, so there's a little description so they know what they're answering questions about, the food service and the seating areas. Do you think current cafeteria provides enough space and seating for the students? Yes, no, I'm not sure. And then optional to say more. Do you think the current structure and setup of the lunch line is effective for our students? Yes, no, not sure. And what would appeal to you in a cafeteria? Quiet or private seats, additional food options, improved layout in the service line, nothing, it's great, or other. Anything jump out at folks on the cafeteria questions? Feel like what we heard, the big issues.
Do you wanna, I'm just wondering, to your point about the academic piece, asking something like, do you have a class or something that meets in the cafeteria space? Does it work for that? Just so we know all the ways they're using it, maybe?
We've gone away with any classes currently.
Okay.
The only time we would is if it was a study hall that exceeded a classroom space and or a library.
Okay.
So this year right now,
That's not
good.
Okay, performing arts space, so description, directing them to think about when the cafeteria is transformed into a cafetorium. Do you think the current space is effective space for students? Yes, no, I'm not sure. Room to say more. If you're a student performer or have attended a performance, what aspects do you have concerns about? Sound, insufficient classroom and rehearsal space, audience seating, size of stage, lighting. I have no concerns. And again, others, so we're not leaving room there. Anything jumped out at folks that they heard that we're not leaving an opportunity for performing arts?
The only thing I was thinking was visual sight, and I'm not sure if that's encapsulated in audience seating. You know, audience seating could be comfort, but and it could be visual sight, so I don't know, we need to.
I like that because those are two different things that are pretty big. Yeah. Comfort of seats and view, because we do have sound, so that would get it all in one. Okay, and then athletics. This includes all fields, main gym, aux gym, and locker rooms. Do you think the current athletic fields provide adequate practice and game space for our student athletes? So that's specific to the fields. Do you think the current gymnasium provides adequate practice and gym space? Same options. Do you think our current outdoor fields Oh wait, did I miss something? Athletic fields, do we say fields twice?
The gymnasium and then the outdoor fields.
The outdoor fields, so what's the first? So the first one, athletic fields. Do we mean something different?
Can you scroll down one more time?
So we have athletic fields, then we have gym, and then we
So
have outdoor
practice.
fields.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that third one should be practice fields.
And the first one technically is the practice. Yep, I can make that change.
So do
Make practice fields for the third.
So we mean, do we mean like performance fields versus practice fields?
Exactly.
Okay. And maybe we put those back to back, keep the fields
Mhm.
together and do the
And then do the
gym, so then
explanation,
people
yeah.
aren't like, wait, what am I doing? Okay. And then if you're a student athlete, same, or spectator, limited practice fields, condition of game fields, layout of the field, size of the gym practice schedules, condition of locker rooms, spectator viewing, spectator seating in the gym, location of bathroom facilities, lack of turf field, I have no concerns, or other.
Something that was raised to me is parking availability around the fields.
Could be under all, could be under the performance, yeah, space
Performing
too.
arts as well.
Yeah.
And the nice part with this is even though it seems comprehensive, it's gonna give us either a pie chart, so it's gonna give us a very basic, or we can do a bar chart, so it'll give us that visual with
Yeah.
all of these, I think.
Okay.
I've read this before and I'm thinking about the practice schedules. Practice schedules are after school, so I don't care about the practice schedules. What I care about in terms of the practice schedules is the lateness.
Yeah,
You know, if practice is at 4 or 5 or 6, that's normal, who cares? What I care about is, you know, our 9th graders and 10th graders getting home at 9:45 at night or 9:30. So if we could crack the question about schedules being about, I get home really late or something like that, wordsmith it that way.
yeah, that competition for space driving these really late nights.
Yeah, and
So basically just expand upon the gym practice schedules, late hours.
Yeah, or even, we could say like late hours of practice schedules.
And we did hear from a lot of the families about safety in the fields, and I see condition of game fields, but maybe we want to have a conditioner of just like aesthetics as well as safety or something to make space for
I
them.
don't think that would fall under condition.
Yeah, I might just give that qualifier, because a lot of people are just gonna think of aesthetics.
Like different
I can
lens.
do, yes, like uneven grounds, or kind of keeping the wording that's on this initial document.
Lack thereof.
Oh, sorry.
no, it's fine. It's my
Just
new,
staring at my
it's
computer.
my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna raise my hand for it.
Good, I like it.
So safety of the field, and I've heard kids talk about that, and I've heard parents talk about that. Oh, my kid hurt his ankle, the field's not safe. Well, I played soccer, and not well, but I played soccer in school. And twisting and spraining your ankle is part of that. Getting it, you know, you're not gonna play sports for 4 or 5, 6 years without getting an injury. It's just part of it. My concern, what I would want to know is how do we parse out, is it unsafe, or are the numbers of kids getting hurt so high that clearly it's not it's not the price of doing business, it's because the field is rough, or the field isn't maintained, or the field is inadequate. Is there a way, could a survey even get to that?
That'd be difficult. I did talk to Jessie Potter, our athletic trainer. She's out on maternity leave right now, but I did give her a little bit of a homework assignment. She'll be back in a couple of weeks. She doesn't have data. She keeps all data in terms of injuries, but she can't, divide up the data on what might have caused the injury specifically. Was it the field or the condition, or so she doesn't have that data. Whether or not that's worth surveying kids, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that kids could get to a survey like that but it would be nice to know statistically the number of injuries we're getting. Is that a normal thing
Right.
when you look at national averages, or is it really high?
She is able, so when she comes back, she'll provide numbers of injuries. So we'll have that data, we just won't have, what was the injury caused by, specifically.
The injuries, possibly as another example, could be that they either went listen to coaches for warm-ups and stretching and all that, and, injuries could happen because of that as well. So it's hard to qualify injuries, I think. You get a bad coach, you got, or bad participants,
I think this is really great. It's just kind of making me think. We heard a lot from the community about how the community is using the fields, and maybe even potentially if a performing arts center. I'm wondering, is there a way we can maybe do more of a survey for if people wanted to, the community? When we heard, I'm just saying, like we heard from the Patriot Soccer Club. We heard from the football team. Is there just a way that maybe we could also get sort of their input? Because these would be community resources.
I think I hear that. I think we want to be very careful with that
Mhm.
because the drive should be from what is the district need and the cost. Like, I think it's also a little bit of I don't want to go there and sell, who wants to come use our theater because it's going to pay for it? It's not. It's not going to pay for it. Nor do we want to confuse the conversation of who we're doing this for. I think if the community can use it, great, but my opinion is we might be playing with fire or confusing the issue. Cole, did you?
I got a question. Did we do a survey once before with students on this? We did. Okay, it must have been something else we did. All right.
Not that I'm aware of.
We did focus groups through the strategic plan.
Okay, it was just a focus group.
And yeah, so there were 400 parents, student, and community participants. And the number one thing that came up was the lunch. Lunch was complicated, hard, uncomfortable, not enough time, those kinds of things.
So I would like, again, if we did do something, I definitely would not mind seeing something pushed out to the parents in the district. I mean, I think that's fair. But the other thing is I don't know how important it is. It's come up a few times, but concessions for the fields, I don't know.
Bathrooms too.
Yeah, I saw that there was bathrooms.
It's on our little chart we're gonna go through.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on there. Okay, I'm just making a note.
Can you clarify, in next steps after we send our suggestions to the school board, would they then, if they finalize, would they send it out, a survey out to the broader community, or would that be a different time?
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is something we're just figuring out here. Because I keep looking at our objectives.
Right.
My opinion is we haven't completed the work that we've been asked to do. So I would love for us to leave tonight with what we think the next step is, which I don't think is for us to continue to meet on Tuesday night, but to, direct someone to go forward, because part of this was getting the questions answered, and the big question is there a good plan? And I think we've kind of come to the position that we need this, but there isn't a great finished plan. And so going back to architects and et cetera, that might be our recommendation at the end of the evening. And in which case, does that go forward and we take a hiatus, see what comes of it? And, I know there was an ideal timeline, but I feel like I've heard from pretty much everyone here that we'd rather do this right than try to meet an arbitrary timeline. So,
I think one of the things I'd like to clarify too, there's been a lot of work done already, and a lot of gathering and, you know, things put forward. So any changes, or I think our actions should not feel like we're insulting those who have already put the work ahead
Sure.
already. So it's just in addition to a switching, times change, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just adjustments, so we should keep that forward as well, that no one feels that they're being insulted.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know that it got difficult when things were shut down during the pandemic, and then you try to bring it back, and, you know, some draft things were put together. It's a big project, so. Okay, so let's see if it works to just take a stab at running through these items.
One more quick thing, if I can interrupt on that. The cafeteria questions, there wasn't one on cleanliness, so should we have something about cleanliness, or is that not even a concern? I know the janitors do a great job, but there wasn't a line item to say, you know, just because some of the theater kids said, you know, the theater, we have to sweep, and, you know, should we put cleanliness up there? Do the kids feel it's clean, or do they feel more attention could be paid to wiping the tables off or
Well,
something?
that's why it's hard too, because they're eating on the stage.
Yeah, I think that was.
It's not necessarily that like, things are getting overly messy, it's just sort of kids eating on
Kids
stage.
eating, they're eating on
They're
the
eating on
stage,
stage and.
Right, the dual usage of it is really the,
So it's not a cleanliness thing, it's a
I don't
usage
think
of it. Okay.
But
I feel like it's always been shorter.
And one thing, just to wrap up the survey, is everyone in this group okay with sending this out to students on Wednesday? Our plan is to send it out next Wednesday during advisory. We'd have a few slideshows with just kind of the why behind the survey. So that way every student kind of hears the why and reading that first initial paragraph, and then have the time to complete the survey. And I can do the same with staff on Wednesday.
So how is this gonna be presented to the students? I mean, is it gonna be like a bullet notice or?
No, it'll be during advisory. So each advisory class is approximately 12 to 15 students. And so it's a small group, a teacher with students, and they'll read that paragraph to the whole group of the why they're completing the survey. And then the students will have time right after to complete the survey.
So all the students go to advisory?
Yes. Past students have a shortened advisory, but they do have advisory.
Sounds perfect. Okay. All right, so let's give it a try. First, okay, how do we tackle this? So we have athletics. So a large multi-turf fields. A new turf performance field we don't have, right? That's what we're saying here.
Correct.
So, we can do a show of hands on level of support on this idea. And also we could plug in words or thoughts on, you know, what the impact would be. So this one's tricky. I feel like we're starting with the big one. I want to say me.
So this has already been a hot topic for me, so.
Hang on.
Can we separate those out, like, I need to know if we need more fields, whether it's turf or not is a separate
Okay.
question.
Perfect. And was your thinking similar or different on the?
Yeah, I think it goes
the
hand in
platform,
hand
sure.
because, you know, I've been saying now for a while that, and I think, Diane, did they have a presentation years ago on that about turf?
Yeah.
I know it was controversial at the time, and I know a lot of stuff has changed since, but.
A lot has changed.
Yeah. To me, that's a huge piece that we haven't even covered yet. And I don't know how to even really go about making a great suggestion on that because I'm not a turf pro by any means.
Cover it how though? So the purpose of the committee is to kind of give our feedback about the need to the board, and then they make the decision whether or not to go out and look at what the options are if turf is a need, right?
I get that, but I feel as though if you don't know what the benefits of turf are, I don't know how you can say that it's a need or it's not a need.
So
so I guess, so maybe we need to word it differently. So the options are, we either need to have an all-purpose surface field that we can use a lot, or we need to have more fields so we can rest the existing fields to keep them safe and be able to use them. So those are the two options. So if you're gonna continue to have grass fields, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but we need more so that we can rest them and that they can be good quality fields and safe or whatever. Or we have to have an all-purpose field with an artificial surface so that it can be used more often and does not need to be rested. So those are really the two choices when it comes to fields. So I think that, you know, I think the question is not necessarily to be answered right this minute about whether it's the one field that's all-purpose or the multi-fields if we feel as we get through the process, or cost-wise or maintenance long-term or whatever, is driving us to say, well, we still want to stick to grass fields, natural surface, and if that's the case, then we need more, and we have all the land. So that's, I guess, maybe we're not saying it correctly, but those are really the two choices that people will face, and absolutely, they'll need a lot of information on both of them, and what the costs are, what the safety is, what the quality of the turf is, whether it's artificial or natural, you know, how do you maintain it long-term. So I think there's a lot behind that. So I'm not I understand what you're saying, I'm just not sure how to word it,
So I
that I
guess-
don't know that we should make the choice now.
I guess, that being said, should we just put it, if we're looking at pushing stuff through the board, should we push it as, we ask them to look into it, the options?
Well, if we try to start framing things as what the feedback we're hearing, right, is ask the experts, ask the stakeholders, you know, get the needs met. It may be, is it as simple as saying, show of hands, do we think improved performance field space is a must-have? And then we say, hey, the team that gets put together, you know, to work with architects and to get us a new set of things to look at, will work on that decision.
Yeah, I foresee, if you just say we need more fields, then the architectural firms would come back with pros and cons and options for grass and pros and cons and options for turf. Because turf can just sidetrack the whole concept of we need more fields and you know, ask 20 people what they think about turf and you'll get 20 answers,
Okay.
or 21.
So let's do, show of hands, large multi-use fields to increase multi-use field space for athletics outdoors.
What was the second thing?
Huh?
Athletic what?
Multi-use, I just knocked, I'm still here, I just made it large multi-use fields and I've knocked the word turf down here, but saying, is there consensus that additional performance field space is needed? Does that help us leave the turf question to the people who are best suited to make that decision?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Do we think this is a must-have? Show of hands. Do
I
it.
think so, yeah.
You have to say.
I would say.
Nate, are you not sure?
I don't know if this is a must-have, to be honest.
Okay.
I think a should-have is probably a little bit more applicable here. It's not, I don't think it's vital. It would be really, really nice to have, and I'm not sure this is a non-negotiable now. If we're looking at the wording of the document.
Right.
If that makes sense.
All right, we do have a tricky wording here because we have must-have, non-negotiable needs that are mandatory for safety. That's an extremely high bar. We might not have many that meet that. Should have, important initiatives that are not vital but of significant value. We could also tweak a must-have to mandatory for safety or to offer the program. It is a programmatic must-have. Do we even have to be that granular? Can we just say we really think this should be included?
Like, yeah, strongly encouraged, but not necessarily a must-have, non-negotiable.
Okay.
Like Diana said, the safety.
Right, and I
Well,
think that,
we don't
you know,
have anything
under
that
should
should be.
have, it's, you know, what kids are required to play for playoffs, they're, you know, on playing on performance fields, you know, so it's definitely a should have to be competitive.
Okay,
It's not a you know, I don't know,
sure. How
I'd be
about we
speaking
save
for
our
you.
must-have for like, we are in big trouble here, this needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
dangerous,
Yeah.
okay? Maybe we don't have any, maybe we have one. So should have is still a really good score.
Okay.
Okay, so should have, Fields?
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
have.
Yep.
We have consensus on Fields. Okay, student impact to increasing our multi-use fields. Is that everybody or just athletics? Would the gym, would the PE classes use such a space?
PE would be, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm thinking that the question is part of the first one that we just discussed, location of fields. If we don't have enough fields now, we have to look at it. So to me, that's a duplication. I don't even think we need that line.
Yeah, so this is kind of a sort of floating list of all the things we heard, so some of them we might be able to cruise by because we'll have checked it, you know, we'll have discussed it. Yeah, so to Fran's point, location of fields, we assume that would be looked at as part of a careful planning if we were to redo the fields. So that goes with the above.
Do you want that in the note to just kind of put like,
Okay,
kind
yeah,
of like,
with fields, okay.
And what I'm thinking is that we'll take this information and like recreate this rubric so that some things are bulleted underneath that category.
Yeah, it's a nice way to look at it in a
Right.
different way.
And then when we have it, we'll
Yeah.
fine tune it, I guess.
Okay, field safety concerns, Nate, do we have anything that would come under here as like a specific safety concern?
as far as
The,
actual fields or specific fields that we have,
yeah, uneven ground, foul balls in other fields, is that go with the layout issue?
that's the field, if we're looking at and Jeff, you maybe will add to this, you've been there much longer than I have, but if you look at the performance field where soccer and football play, it's very uneven and it's quite old, I think, and it's starting to sink a little bit, so I think I would categorize that as a must-have. I think that absolutely needs to be looked at because that is a safety concern.
And can you say which field that is again?
Field number 1. So
Okay,
it's the-
field number, perfect. Okay, so let's make a note that that's a specific issue within the broader thing.
I also think in terms of layout, foul balls, we talked about that a couple of times, the way the baseball field is configured next to the track, it is a safety hazard for foul balls, has been for years. Now, there might be another solution to that outside of reorganization, refiguring the layout, but that is a safety concern. People dodging baseballs fairly regularly. Sun, yeah, sun.
Okay, and more and better lighting for outside fields. Is that a could have, or we literally can't see play?
Is it a
I'd say-
safety issue?
The way that it's currently constructed, I'd say could have, the way the fields are.
Excuse me, did we discuss the lighting before?
No,
Is this
just right
the
now.
first time we're talking
The
about it?
first time we're talking.
Okay. So, could you explain, I mean, now there's new information that already came out. So, why is this in here?
So we currently have one field out there, well, one field that has lights out there, field number 1, the performance field. Those lights are quite old. They're, I don't know how old they are, but 20-ish years is my guess. Maybe older. Older than 20 years. It's pretty well lit out there at night, but if you're talking about adding any kind of periphery lighting or anything like that, I think that would be an issue. I think this needs to be looked at just because of the age of the lights more than anything.
It was pre-2000.
Has it been I'm sorry, any capital improvement in town or anything like that? Has that ever been addressed in that area, the lights?
Capital improvement.
Has it been able to make it to that level?
So the lights are older than the 20 plus years old.
And now middle school, fields. Now we say middle school fields, but for clarity, do multiple teams use fields at the middle school? Or is it like only middle school players use the middle school field, high school players use high school fields?
High school soccer uses the soccer field, the middle school soccer field during the summer, so that kind of overlaps. But generally, no. Generally, they're separate.
Just curious. And in here, we've done a little fun thing. Someone put scoreboards under should have, so just speaking to the middle school fields, generally, scoreboards or should have. Do we have any scoreboards in those fields at all?
We don't, and to be honest, not a lot of middle school fields, at least that I've been to, have scoreboards. I think that'd be a nice thing to have. That it's a should have.
It'd be nice to have a portable one.
It would be nice. We actually looked at that
Yeah.
last fall. Yeah.
So would you suggest
Yeah.
moving that to the right of space or leave it where it is?
I would say move that to the right.
Yeah, I moved that over to could have. Did I hear, just like it could be, I'm just putting a note here, there's digital. Are they movable?
You can.
They are, yeah,
You
portable
could-
ones,
You
portable.
could kind of use them at different spots, that could be nice. Okay. So the middle school dugouts, we have 2 line items, are those 2 different, did they make it in twice or are these 2 different issues?
I think this is probably middle school and high school, yeah.
Oh, got it, okay, I'm just gonna make that case. Okay, so are we looking at a, like, should be because it's an eyesore, or like we have problems in the dugout?
I would say, yeah.
I'm just curious, does this mean that it says middle school dugouts need painting, some repair, and then the following one is high school dugouts for softball and baseball? Does that mean the high school has no dugouts at all?
They do have dugouts.
Okay, so it's repairs?
What do they need?
Replacement.
Yeah, what does this mean, like the high school dugouts for softball and baseball?
Repairs.
Oh,
And
repairs,
replacement. They're
okay.
disintegrating.
Yeah,
They're not-
honestly,
they're
not-
they
they
need to be
replacement.
replaced. We
Yeah,
we've tried
fixing as
painting
much as
them,
we
we
can.
fixed roofs on them,
Oh, no,
we've
it's
done
just-
some of that stuff, it's,
Work.
they're in desperate.
They're beyond.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's just the way it's written, it's
Yeah.
not clear if there
Yeah.
are any at all.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So this is repairs.
We've had to replace the concrete blocks.
Okay, so is that, using the word replacement, are we talking a must-have? We have like a not usable dugout?
They're usable, they're literally disintegrating, so.
They will not be usable long term.
And we've had to take some of it down. We've literally had to remove some of the dugout because it's not, we couldn't keep it standing.
Okay, so that feels pretty
like a must-have.
must-have? Okay, I'm gonna put that.
But how much has been done already through capital improvements?
Some of this, yeah.
Some of it's been done already.
Well, like removing it so that
So
it hasn't been rebuilt or anything, but
Replaced
we,
anything.
no.
And a lot of things too keep coming up within weight, because are we gonna move this thing forward, and then you're not doing things piecemeal, so.
I think any one of these things individually could be capital improvement. If you said this one thing is extremely important and was a few thousand or tens of thousands of dollars, you could probably do it in a budget cycle on individual pieces.
That's why I was asking,
Yeah.
because, to repair some bleachers over the years,
Yeah.
that's something that could have been a minimal cost coming
We
out
have
of
been doing
capital
that.
improvements.
We have been doing that.
You know, so,
Well, and there's a fine line between continuing to do minor repairs and then when you get to a project, well, you've been jerry-rigging it and doing it fine, like, then it might be good enough, you know, so there's a fine line about the need and that the community notices and how we move those dollars, you know, use those dollars for the highest and best use. And, you know, like you said, we've been talking about a bond, and these are things that would fit in there. And if we keep doing little piecemeal, the community might not support doing these projects that absolutely need to be done. You know, so it's, you know, we make sure things are safe and.
So to that end, middle school dugouts, paint and some repair. Are they in better shape? Is that a should have?
I'd categorize that with the same as the high school.
Same, they're similar.
As a could have, should have,
Must have.
or must have.
Are you voting on that, or?
Sorry, I was just plugging on Nate. Nate says we must have it. Vote on
I'm
that.
happy to vote, so.
Okay, and also, I'm using the word vote lightly, of course, we're just trying to get something to move forward. The board will ultimately bear responsibility for this. Okay, outdoor restrooms. I don't even go to outdoor games, and I feel like I know the answer to this one. Yeah.
So what we have now is portable outhouses. That's what they are. They're outhouses. And with no place, which, you know, I grew up in the county picking potatoes. I can live with an outhouse. I don't know when we have 500 guests on campus that an outhouse is what we need, and there's no place to wash your hands. And then we're serving food. I just, you know, and I don't know what other high schools have. I don't know of it. I just think, you know, you come to a game, you buy your ticket, and the first thing you see is the outhouse and then the snack shack. And I don't know that you know, we have plumbing in the back of the high school where the adult ed center is. Could we expand that and make it the place for people to go to the bathroom where they can wash their hands? But, you know, when we have a hot September, it's extremely embarrassing to go back there.
Yeah, and this one I feel like has been made pretty clear in the past. I feel like this has been previously negotiated, that this, like a field, we weren't gonna be able to move a field project forward without a bathroom. I feel like this was the word on the street.
I was just gonna ask a question though. When you say there's plumbing already in place behind one of the buildings, in proximity, how far is that from the fields?
Not that far, so if you were to
What do you
build,
consider not that far?
well, so if you were to build, let's say where the snack shack is today, if you were to build plumbing there, that would be a very big deal because you have to create it from scratch. Where, and I'm not an architect, but the adult ed center is by the field parking lot. And so could that be redeveloped so that could be the place where people go to the bathroom? Because there is a bathroom there.
But that's why I was asking, because we don't have a map, a layout here.
Yeah, it would
where the
be-
fields
Are we
are.
designing this right now? Or are we
No,
just
and
asking
again,
for
I-
the-
I'm just
Yeah,
asking,
yeah,
I
like,
want to, and I totally agree with that. I said at the last meeting, I'll say it again at this meeting. I think at this point, I think we gotta figure out if we just need them, or we kinda need them, or we don't need them at all. Because we've already said in previous meetings this even, that this could be a domino effect, right? Because if we recreate a whole new addition onto this building, or we retrofit, or we do whatever, this is gonna domino affect everything else. So the placement where we think might be a good placement right now, where the plumbing is, if we add on to this building, that might not be an option anymore, right?
Right, that's what I was
So
asking.
again, I think that's why we need to decide, is it something we do need, kinda need, or don't need at all?
And keep
I think that's where we need to keep it, and then as far as trying to figure out where things go, I think is gonna be impossible at this point.
Well, this will be the fun part, is we get to give this list to some architects and say, this is what we
Yeah,
need,
that's-
give us some menu options, so. Okay, so updated snack shack, I feel that was the same, right, they're preparing
Oh,
food,
no,
they
they
don't
didn't.
have.
Wait, we didn't finish restrooms.
Yeah, do it kind of maybe.
Is that a could have? We could have it. Updated restrooms.
Or restroom at all.
Or we don't even have any.
Okay, well, we could have, depending upon,
Okay, I'm
This is the
hearing,
layout.
I'm hearing a must-have, I'm hearing a could-have.
What do we wanna vote on?
Vote,
We do a vote.
Well,
must have.
must-have toilets?
I'm doing it.
Must have, yeah.
Must-have toilets. Okay. Updated snack shack.
Must have.
Must-have.
I mean, I think we should vote unless we have questions about it.
Okay, let's just press
Because
on and
otherwise,
then
we're
we
gonna
can,
be here forever.
then we can fight about it after. For fun. Because I like that. All right, updated snack shack, must-have.
I'm just gonna go with what you guys said, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right. Okay.
It's the same connection.
Okay. I'm not saying that.
Snack shack's been there for 35
What's your
You
view?
know, I think we're wasting a lot of time. If everybody thinks we must have and should have for everything that's on here, let's just go with that and not spend any more time going through the lines. I think that that's, because
I think that's what we're
I
gonna
think we're at
find.
that point, I feel,
Yeah.
okay, that everyone's gonna go along and, you know, with what's on the paper here. So I personally think that it would be a waste of time to go with line by line.
Okay.
I disagree. There are some things that I don't think are must-haves and are in could-have, or I can't remember the
All
category.
right, let's just do the process, because we have time. So outdoor storage. Outdoor storage, show of hands, we need outdoor storage. Do we even, or do we not know?
I would rank it as a could have.
Could have,
That's what
yeah.
I had.
Okay, I don't know enough about that one, so. Okay, so we'll put that on could have. And here's a big one, gym.
Okay, so when we started this group, we didn't have gym on the agenda. It was a part of the original bond. Now all of a sudden it shows up on the paper, just like, you know, the lighting.
Well, there was a lot of
Actually-
conversation about the gym
Right.
There
on
has
our
been
athletic thing.
conversation, but it wasn't part of the
the
original
original, yeah, objectives.
objection. There was
It was
three
athletic
areas.
fields.
Well, it was sort of brought up, but I think because the conversation before was in the spring, the focus was kind of on the field, and now we're in winter sports, so we heard a lot about the gym.
Well, and don't we have plans that were designed that
I was gonna
had
say
a
I had,
possibility
yes,
of a
we
gym?
did get
So that
plans
is
for a
not
gym.
like the first time, this was pre-pandemic in the
Yeah.
plan.
Now, I did check, we did have a conversation, because that is an area of some question. And Sam, the school board chair's opinion was that was on the menu.
Yeah.
And that is feedback we got from the public and from our stakeholders, which was our task. So that if there's support, if we're hearing there's support for a gym, we should ask for more information on a gym. Oh, sorry, Greg. Oh, this handwriting's killing me.
So, I know, I can't,
Your guys'
yeah. So in 2017, 18, 19, the original group that met hired the architects. And the architects came back with some schemata, and some were just the one gym, and then an additional practice gym if you wanted it. So it was sort of an à la carte presentation. Am I correct, Diane? That there is sketches of a potential extra gym if you wanted it. There's also sketches of expanding the auxiliary gym. But then the committee shut down, and so there are, it is there of, there is drawings from the original architectural work, but they're not fully fleshed out because we didn't give them directions to go ahead and design.
And they are in our folder. And I think, I'd love to hear more too from Nate on this, but there was different ideas, and they all start to roll down each other. So if there was a plan in where a gym could be put into place that then allows the auxiliary gym to no longer be needed, could that be part of a cafeteria to free up the performing art? There's so many conversations in which these become really entwined, and all we have to say is, do we think it's worth exploring? Yeah.
And I would say, and I left as that gym was being redone when they redid that gym. But it was important for me to hear the safety concerns around egress and being able to walk through there when games are happening, and the dangers of how close everything is to the floor. So that, when I came in here, I wasn't necessarily thinking gym, but that really brought it to the forefront when we did the safety concerns, and that's one of the ones when we talked safety that I had kind of thought was important because of some of those things we heard.
Agreed.
I don't know if it's on the agenda. A 10-minute field trip to the gym to see what's going on would give us some idea of what it means when we have a full house in the
Could we
gym.
even get in at this point?
I guess I have a question, and I don't mean this negative towards anybody, but we just had one of our last meetings in the Aux gym, right? What did we hear that night that we had that meeting? It was mostly about gym space. We heard about some other stuff, but it was mostly about gym space. So, again, I thought that this group is supposed to be open-minded. So, granted, the work was done years ago, and we all know that. And gym wasn't really on the forefront, but since last year, when it started coming back in again, that the word gym started developing all over again, to the point where they found it was pretty significant, just as much as it was the fields. And I think we heard that when we were just in the Aux gym a couple weeks ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess that was a general consensus from everybody that I got. And I even made the comment that I don't feel comfortable not pushing this forward without putting that option on the table, because that's pretty apparent that we need that.
Right.
And the public is saying that we need it, and they want it.
And we're not here to vote on what's going on the property tonight. We're here to say, have we heard and seen enough evidence of the need that we want to direct a group to go get us some fresh menus and prices, right? I was also horrified when I went down to the gym with those awesome kids. I mean, nothing is more effective, and we could have done it with the theater kids. You have the kids bringing in the space, and it changes things pretty fast. So, I know we don't know the answer, but, sorry, go ahead, Bernie.
No, it's okay. I'm just looking, so to me, I think the gym itself was problematic, but it's a safety issue, but it's also related to the one right underneath. Increased gym space was clearly what we heard, to Cole's point as well. So I think they go together. So this is about gym space, safety and volume, in my mind. It's what we've heard from people who talked to us and from folks who manage those parks.
I'm just putting some of the words we know too in these blocks. We know that the gyms are overbooked. We know that the
So, I can give you, sorry, I don't mean to
Go,
interrupt.
please do.
So for our own kids, we have 2,199 hours of gym time. It's just during the year. And that's across 3 gyms that we have. Well, 3.5. You have our gym down here, the game gym, the Aux gym, the middle school gym, and the Dunn School gym. The Dunn School gym, though, does not get included in our hours. It's mostly class 2 and other things. So I would say that is between the 3 gyms, or the 2.5 gyms, because the Aux gym is basically a half.
On our campus here.
Yeah, so on this campus, about 2,200 hours.
For how many schools?
That's for these 2 schools.
So that's, it's 61 hours a week for a 36-week school year.
So those gyms are getting used time and a half.
Yeah, I mean, some of that's in the summer, during summer basketball, things like that. So it's not just limited to the school year, but yes, it's a lot of hours.
This is also where, when I wasn't here, I did watch the video last week, where we heard the most about safety was the gym space.
Yeah, that's,
So I would, for me, that should be included there. It is small, which impacts the safety, but the parents who came out and the athletes voiced the safety concerns.
Okay, and again, and driving that interconnectedness, we have all that gym time. Some of that may not even be counting the concerts that are booting out because, you know.
That's
because-
just athletic time.
Right, so
no,
on.
that's all bookings.
That's all bookings,
Yeah.
okay. So there's a lot of things putting pressure on the gym that are trickling around too from the space. Okay, so locker room repairs. Did everybody see the locker rooms? Show of hands on that one. Must have.
I think it's a
Good.
good I mean.
Did you go in there?
I did. And I only say that because it's just one of those like standalone items, I guess, as the locker rooms. Like, yes, it would be great if they could get some more locker space, some shower curtains, all of that stuff. But if we're talking about some of the, but I guess I'm just sort of looking at it some pieces like individually. I mean, if we put in a whole new gym, there's gonna be new locker rooms. But if you were just come out to me and said, should we redo all of the locker rooms? I would say maybe.
So that has been on the capital item for a long time.
Oh,
That particular item has certainly been on there, because when you go in and you see the
it was
quarters
a
and.
boys locker room and it met all of the qualifications I thought it would meet for a boys locker
We
room.
have kids changing in classrooms because there's not enough room for them in the locker rooms. No one can take
So
a shower.
size, I mean,
So that,
to me, this is talking about, see, size isn't a repair. Size is
So we
a
have
replace or
two-
remodel, I guess.
yeah, we have two. So
Okay.
locker room repairs,
That was what we were at, down.
okay, locker room repairs. Should we have locker room repairs?
I mean, me personally, I would put it under a should have. I mean, I don't think it's a must have. I think that it will naturally fall in if we do any renovations to gym space or things like that. We'd be short-sighted if we didn't do it at the same time. You know, that would be very short-sighted of us to not do that.
It's been important enough that it's been lingering in the capital plan, which is probably worth noting. So I'll just note, we'll put it in the middle, capital plan. Additional locker rooms, does that kind of fall into like, now we're getting in the weeds if we're gonna explore a gym, right?
If we build a new gym,
It would
there
be
would
put
be,
locker rooms.
there would be new
Maybe
locker
put a note,
rooms.
include in
But if we
new
don't build
gyms.
a new gym,
Right.
you don't have new locker rooms.
Tied to possibility of new gym.
Yeah,
Um, you know, unless is a gym expansion even a possibility? We don't know. These are the things that, we'll pay someone else to tell us. So home and away bleacher space, again, are we,
Is this, what field, was that for the fields?
oh, is this
That's for the
outside?
field.
I think so.
Okay, outside, because there isn't any, right?
Yeah, we have,
We have some.
We do have some.
We just don't know
on the
what
first
that they
page,
said.
there's all kinds of bleachers and.
I think we heard something about,
Yeah.
home and away fans having to sit together in the bleachers.
I think we only have them on the one side.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we only have the one main.
Which made it hard for the families that were visiting to sit. It was, that was definitely an issue that they raised.
So is this basically it's an issue of adequate seating for spectators. Is that a could have?
That was like,
I would put under could have.
Could
Yeah.
have?
Could have.
All right, good, look at us, okay.
we get better as we go.
Good, okay, look, we're all over the place, this is good. Let's throw out let's reject something, just to show that we're reasonable people. Stands for,
I reject the blank line there.
Yeah, we don't want that, that's a no.
Stands for baseball observers. Now, is this different from the
Yeah.
bleacher thing? we're at a different field.
Yeah, the main game bleachers don't come down far enough for you to be able to watch the baseball game.
Oh, okay, so they don't,
So they're on the
Currently
fence.
none.
They stand
They
along the
stand on the
fence.
fence.
so they have none, so are they more of a should have?
We have portable ones,
Oh, okay,
so we could move them. I don't know that they ever do. I know that they have portable ones that they move over for middle
I
school
actually
soccer
put
and
that
stuff,
as
so.
a side note, my mobile.
More
question mark.
portable, okay, let's make a note of that.
Portable, whatever.
So it's a good hack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have in the past put some portable ones on the first base side on the concrete there. But there's no place to put them on the third base side really, I don't think, because it's parking lot right up to there. So, you know, we can put a little bit of portable seating, but not a lot.
Green space rooftop garden. Oh, this was if we use the, if we use up the courtyard to build a new gym,
Let's say we'll not have.
we'll put
Get
a.
rid of it.
I had
Yeah.
to,
Will not have.
Let's save the courtyard. Let's.
Yeah.
This was Fran's idea.
this is the one to vote on.
The rooftop
Fran's
garden.
idea, the rooftop garden.
It wasn't my idea.
Yeah, that 100% was.
Yeah, you said if we,
No,
if
I
people were.
supported the person who made the recommendation.
I did,
And that's not, you know,
Let's just say not necessary, so we look like we're
Well,
very
not-
serious.
and if I made it, it would definitely be a no.
No way you got there.
I was delighted that you suggested.
Well, and it's something that you might naturally do if you build
Yeah.
a building,
Right,
if it's
if you-
appropriate. It wouldn't be something that you would spend a lot of money on.
Right.
But if it's something that was eco-friendly and provided program space for students and.
We'll find together.
Okay. So on to, so, okay, so what, and so I think the picture we've painted here is that we see a need for, some thoughtful, potential plans that address the athletic program overall. Stage, performing arts area. This is gonna be a little bit of that same, some of it's in the weeds. What if we start a little backwards? We have things like changing areas for drama performances. It's pretty important, yes, Craig?
So, this has been in the news lately. A main principal was fired. The town was in turmoil for this very issue. And so, we know that kids that play basketball and soccer change up. Well, they do in drama too. They're in costumes. And I've been back there during show night to congratulate them or what have you, and it's
Pretty wild.
not wild, but it's, so I don't know that we need to build something new, but they need some place to change that's private with a closed door. Now, whether that already exists, I don't know, but this is a need. Can we fix it internally? I don't know, but it's a need.
For sure.
Is this also a space, Penny, that we, or everybody, that we would include? I know that it says middle school stage drama space and storage, but when I've been back there, part of the changing issue beyond privacy is there's not enough room for all the stuff. Like they're dressing, the area they keep all their costumes and makeup is small and it overflows.
In high school or middle school?
High school.
Yes, I think it's storage, we have a line of, oh, it says for props, we can,
Yeah, I think that's important.
Can we, because this kind of got mushed together, could we maybe specify out that we're talking about like the high school right here?
oh, yeah, sure. So let's say high school, and then we'll say storage. We can just, I think it's probably, just say storage, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just storage, so that we don't have to get too specific. Okay, so let's jump around a little bit to stick with the backstage. Storage is, pretty rough. I don't know, that must have feels like strong language,
Should
but
have.
Should have.
should
have.
have, nice to have room to store
And
your
then
stuff.
if, and then if it's redesigned, you're naturally gonna redesign some storage into the space.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So we had an admin team meeting today and we talked about storage. And Diane was there and Jeff was there. So storage is interesting. Why do you need storage? What are you storing? How long are you storing it? And it's a complicated issue. And I talked today about a storage rubric.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we shut down for COVID, one of the safety issues was throw away everything. Everything you don't need, throw away. I'm still seeing 1967 textbooks. Do I need storage for that? Do I need storage for the broken chairs? Because in 3 years, we might need to use one of those broken chairs. And so before I start piecemealing storage for drama, storage for music, storage for art, storage for custodians, storage for football, I think we need some sort of district-wide evaluation of what we have for storage and what we don't have for storage, and then create a rubric for what must be thrown out and what must be kept, and then we can make rational decisions about, do we need to construct something, or do we have enough space, or do we, you know.
Well, isn't storage, like in this situation, gonna be a little hard because maybe someplace you're building lots of new sets and some of them you're not, and I know one of the things that came up is because it's in the cafeteria, there's no way to like really stop people from kind of getting up on the stage and maybe
right,
messing
you
with
need
some
a
stuff.
costume closet.
Right, so
and
there's,
with
I
all
think
that
there's.
sort of stuff you need.
So I'm not denying that.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying is, this is,
But district
it is a district thing.
you know,
I remember that even on our tour, it came up at every school.
like at Memorial School has that, I don't know what you call that, it's an old
Like a
storage
storage
train
box,
container.
Yeah.
I'd love to go through there and just poke at these things and tell me, why are we saving this again? Why are we saving that again? And it's like, well, and I think this is a,
It's a
Help me,
broader
Diane.
issue that I see in a lot of places, at board meetings for sure. And also it falls probably under the umbrella of, if we agree that we need an improved performance space, this is, would go into that. Classrooms though, I feel like is very much, possibly a separate piece. We're hearing that, I went in there the other day with the instruments set up in the band room. Highly recommend taking a peek at that. It was shocking. I don't even know how they put the kids in. So we know our bands and choruses are going from 20, 25 kids to potentially 70, 80 kids, who won't physically fit in that space.
It feels like a must-have for consideration based on what we heard, and then
I think
we can get sorted.
how we've been doing it, just to keep it consistent, it's gonna be like a should have, as in, but if we do the space, then it would have to be addressed at that time. But yes, going in there and the other night and seeing it with the instruments out. I mean, the drummers are like right there. I mean, so if anyone who's been in band, to have those drums right behind, like, I get what she was saying about how the acoustics are difficult.
I would also argue more than just about anything, this is something, those are academic credits here.
Yeah.
So if we don't expand that space, that's totally fine, but at some point a must-have is some sort of housing of your 80 band kids who are looking for academic credit for their.
I think to me personally, all this stuff in that page and the next page for theater is much stronger than a should have. I don't know if must have is the right word for it, but I don't think should have gives it enough value of how important it is, and that going back to the space was never designed for what it's being used for, that we really don't even have existing good space for it. Are we getting by? yes, but we shouldn't be. So to me,
They've
it's,
never had sufficient
Right,
space in this
right,
building. I
right.
think it was, what is now down in the art wing was the band room.
It was the adult ed when I
Oh,
was a
it's
kid.
the adult, that's what it was,
So-
yeah.
The acoustics were never great, but there was at least room to fit. I think when I was here, the band was usually about 50, 60 kids. You cannot fit 50, 60 kids in what is right now the room. And I would hate for it to ever to be a cap on something like band, because the classroom cannot hold. I mean, that really is a disservice to the kids.
Correct me if I'm wrong, was this not part of the bifurcated bond from 30 years ago that we're gonna do these 10 things, they did like 8 things, and then we're gonna come back later?
it wasn't the 2017 one, and I don't know what was done. The other one prior to that was like 2009 and 2006 or something.
So was that part of the 2006, 2009, they were unable to get to those?
I wasn't here, so.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I was involved, I don't believe that.
And I feel like I've heard a version of that story too, Craig, that it was a thing that never got done. And we also have this on our, it's on the strategic plan as something that is a goal for the district, so.
When you talk about stage and the quality of or lack thereof, decent quality of the stage, I mean, I think it does raise to the safety issue. I think having all the production stuff on the stage is a safety issue, not being able to access the lighting. You know, to me, those all rise to a safety issue, as well as not having actual space for these and.
Right. Seeing seeing someone on a scissor lift in that space trying to get at the lights will.
And
stop
eating
you.
up there, I mean, they're just continually trashing it every single day, you know, not because that's what they're doing, just because the nature of the use that we're using it for. So that is continuing to wear it down for performances and things like that. So maybe there's different category, maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not the same wording for the heading for those particular things.
And maybe we can look at this a little more broadly of a performing arts space is a must-have. We're probably not moving forward a bond without it, and it's probably the thing that has the most ready support in the community.
And the most significant current.
Yeah, and we could look at some of the nitty-gritty. Would we want to move forward to a architect or an engineer? The acoustics are a problem, some of the equipment is a
I
problem.
think it's a little
And does that, that could get into the nice to haves, but we know that just having the space is a must have.
I don't,
And when you'd work with an architect, they would do from A to Z, and then you'd say, okay, it's $1 million more than we want. Where are we going to value engineer that we can reuse? When we get into the kitchen, what things could we reuse and not replace? How can we structure the design so we're not necessarily moving every single wall and, repurposing space that exists.
So the middle school has a good band.
You do.
When we talk about redoing the stage, changing rooms, so on and so forth, my check mark goes to must have if what we're saying is a quality performing arts stage, quality changing rooms, quality band rooms, and quality seating, so that both the middle school and the high school are doing their major performances in this auditorium. So the rehearsals that continue to happen at the middle school, but they have a 2-week thing to come in and do their show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
I think that was our understanding, that was.
Yeah.
As well as academics though, as
Yeah.
well as
Yeah.
band and chorus that are actual
Yeah, but what I'm
classes.
thinking is,
Right, the dual
the Mrs.
purpose.
Gerard's program,
Mhm.
the middle school choral program, the middle school band program, and maybe even the
The dance
elementary choral
school.
programs
You can
comes to
have
have their concerts at this new stage. Is that what we're talking about?
District-wide.
That was my understanding, that this
Yeah.
is something that,
Then I would put a must-have check mark for me.
Yeah.
That the whole district would benefit, every kid would benefit from having proper changing at a proper stage to perform for all those concerts and all those plays.
and then I would be remiss if I didn't read on behalf of Emily for tonight, notes for the meeting. In the next phase of planning, I hope the committee will consider speaking to an acoustical specialist when looking at a new theater and music classrooms. I did already pop this in because it had been emailed to me. This is the company that we use for band and equipment. Apparently they have someone coming in February to do some work with Edward Little, and their rep, they said, hey, we can stop by and show you what we're up to sometime this month. So that Emily had put that out there. That's getting in the weeds, but they exist. I'm really hoping that expansion and updating of music classrooms will be a priority. Expansion of teaching space and storage, acoustical design, raised ceilings would be ideal. Windows would be an exciting bonus. Any piece of that wish list would be an improvement to the students' experience and learning. And a plug, I still don't know enough about this, but as I listened to presentations, it seemed to me that the gymnasium and locker room should take priority over fields. It seemed like the greatest safety risks were posed by the inadequate gymnasium, but my assessment may be incorrect. So that was Emily chiming in I'm not being able to be here, but, so emphasis from her as well on the teaching space of that theater. Middle school sound, this is I'm just putting things that would go with updated space. But the middle school equipment, that was kind of a slide in.
Well, and how I would look at that is if you're replacing and redoing some of the high school stuff, you may retrofit the existing stuff and move it over to the middle school, all those types of things.
So,
how you can repurpose things.
yeah, so if we're going to build a premier stage with premier sound and lighting at the high school, do they need that just to have rehearsals at the middle school when they're going to come here and have 2 weeks of rehearsal for performance at the high school?
Or do you just move what we have here?
Move what we
and
have,
if that's improvement, or, there's just so many ways to look at it.
Right.
I don't think we're going into this saying we need. I think that we still have very practical lenses of how we look at this project. I don't want people to lose sight of that, because I really have never found this community not to do that.
Yeah.
I think we go in with that lens that we need to have anything that's, Taj Mahal, what is the need?
Yeah.
And I'm just writing on acoustical shell again. Similarly, does that, if you make an actual intended performing arts space, does it now work and you don't have to bring in these acoustical shells, or is it like, oh no, that's just a thing you do? Wait, we don't know. I don't know, guys. I think we've been really reasonable.
But those are movable equipment pieces.
Yep.
So when you get down to building and you get down to that list and say, okay, is this something that's, freestanding that can be, those are all the questions that come up as you start to develop this.
Right. Okay, cafeteria. So the bullets we had for this are a little shorter. We had heard about, having an updated campus-y type space. And I guess I would say, do we qualify that as just a sort of a modernized seating?
Yeah, I guess I was wondering, are we talking about the seating space or like
Or
the
the
food
service
selection
setting, yeah.
or both, I guess, was about the campus.
I was talking about the serving.
The serving area, okay.
Are you thinking, because on college campuses, even the serving is separated around that, get sort of the bottleneck from happening in a line, so that flow would be better?
So this would be for that.
It's kind of the first three altogether.
Right.
Yes.
So, this uncomfortable and insufficient seating, we must have, should have, could have.
Where?
Oh, she's back on,
I think that's back.
Yeah.
back on the, school.
I had just batched that as, if we're saying performance space needs to be redone.
Can I get my point?
Then we should also have that in
Wording,
the cafeteria.
uncomfortable and insufficient. So then you follow the line, must have, should you have uncomfortable and efficient seating?
We should have, yes, uncomfortable seating.
Because that was the issue, so.
That's how you pay
I just caught on to that, so.
Oh my gosh,
That's how you
see
don't
how
fall
slow I
asleep,
am?
right?
See how slow I am?
It took me a minute.
Take off the slow.
You need to change that.
We
Yes,
need
correct.
comfortable seating, it's a must have.
Comfortable and sufficient.
Okay, so down on the cafeteria, the first two kind of go together.
First three, really.
First three, okay. We have better flow, updated accessibility, space for serving options, equipment signage, and that impacts all of our kids. We've kind of stopped doing that, but everyone wins. How do we, show of hands, updating the cafeteria service area? Or thoughts?
Updating the cafeteria what?
The cafeteria, the serving space, the flow.
To me, it's, I think it's a should have. I think that the priority is cafeteria space for students to eat. And I think that the natural flow will be to redesign that to get that space. Could you use the space we have with moving the wall if we do the auditorium? I think the priority is to have seating space for kids. You know, in my mind, staring at these drawings all day long, I have some, ideas about how to do that without redoing everything, but, so I'm not sure that we have to have new, I think it could be minor to redesign the space. I don't think it's a must-have. When do you say, but I think that.
Well, for the serving area, I think that it depends.
Yeah.
If we do like what we were talking about.
Right.
That would be one, but if we were putting something in the alcove and had to serve off that side.
Right, so it depends where it is.
It would, yes, there's really not a sufficient space there for a bigger serving area.
You just have some exciting
without using
ideas
part of
about
the
space,
cafeteria that would take away from that space.
I have a clarifier. So are you saying that we don't potentially need more space as a must-have, but either redesign space, but considering space feels like a must-have, like considering either how to use our space differently or, because the structure doesn't sound like it's working right now.
I mean, I think we need larger space, regardless of what we do, in order to have the design and the flow for what we're looking for. We can redesign what we have if nothing happens, obviously that's something that we would try and do with the space that we have. But we'd be very limited on that. And as far as changing any of the, the complaints that the kids have put forward and, other people, I don't know how it would address that well.
That's a good point. In order to address the feedback, this is something that we need to do. If we were to address the student experience feedback. Okay, I'm gonna move it back over to shows. But we'll make a note.
First floor, should have. must-have.
Yeah, new equipment, it's not necessary, it's not gonna be a wholesale change. It's not gonna be wholesale that we need an entire new kitchen.
Right. That's not something that,
That would be targeted.
Right, we would be, yeah,
But the seating
depending
is
on the
okay.
design, you know, what can be reused, we certainly would wanna do that. And if it isn't outdated and
and at
seen
that
its
point,
useful life or not efficient,
when
energy
it happens,
efficient.
it-
Right,
who knows what.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. And then down to the bottom, we're almost there. The seating, there's two that kind of go together. The seating to fit the actual student body, and addressing the needs of, kids having a space that they're comfortable going to, making some options for kids with sensory stuff. Where do we feel that falls?
Must have.
so,
I would say the seating for 300 plus, I would say is a must-have.
Right, we have to put them somewhere.
Yeah, we've got to put. And smaller tables, I mean, that's an option. We could have that mixed in
Right,
with the
it's
larger
depends how
tables.
it designs out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just would go into an updated design, right?
Right.
You're not gonna do the work and not do what we now know is preferred. Something that, Fran, this is what I thought you were just getting at when you were, pointing out the chairs, that it also needed to come down here. Thinking about, I think you had asked this back before, are we talking reusing furniture we have for the cafeteria? Would part of the cost be that we need new and different tables and chairs, or would it possibly, you know,
Depends on how it's
depends on
designed.
what?
If, after observing, the process of the lunch, if nothing was done, I think everything is fine. But I do think that probably we need more, new tables and chairs, a little more efficient type of tables, along with a little more comfortable chairs. They have chairs, they have tables on the stage, but as I looked at the setup in the cafeteria, there's still plenty of space on the sides, which would not block fire entrances or anything like that. So that cafeteria right now is fully functional. They're doing an excellent job of feeding those kids within 4 minutes. And the food, is good.
Especially with no cooking.
And the fact that, there's hardly any leftover and stuff like that, and, it's movement and, so the area itself it's not a bad place. It does, so I'm looking at maybe a little capital improvement more so than bond issue. But it's what I'm looking at in that particular area. But, if you ended up with a new cafeteria, obviously you want to relook at what you're going to be putting in. But the way it is right now, it's very sufficient.
In the square footage, I was noticing, getting back to like looking at what other folks have done and not discounting the work, but making sure we're doing the job here. The square footage currently in the space that the kids are eating lunch in is 5,800 square feet. The square footage in this proposed cafeteria was 4,000 square feet. So quite a bit less. So
Yeah, but you're talking about a square versus levels and,
okay, so some of that.
you're not talking about the same type of space.
Okay, so some of that would
Yeah, oh
would
yeah,
work out.
yeah. And
Though- Though this was at seating of 225 as drawn, so, and I know we had this sort of alleyway situation that was, remaining, but,
I wouldn't go by that.
Yeah,
I've got
so-
some other ideas on that. So.
and this really hadn't gotten far enough to get at any of the
No.
classroom issues or any of the things, so, okay, so we got to the bottom of our chart. And this is where I feel like we've put together some cohesive thoughts that could be moved forward to, okay, now what are we asking for? But what is that look like? What is this group, what are we asking for? Any, back of the envelope ideas, Diane?
Well, I think we can pull this I mean, I think that we now create a narrative of what we've just talked about. I mean, I think it's a small group that, you know, works with you to create that narrative, and then, more so what next steps are from what we've learned from people and where we go from there.
Because if we go back to what we've got to turn in, our homework assignment, it will be that we will have completed the work of the bond project committee. Again, I think that was a pretty enthusiastic bullet point there. But we have the information to put together a nice narrative summary of what we heard. We're going to get the feedback from the students that we can fold in. But this is where we get hung up a little bit, is I think the thinking was we were going to have what we needed to go to the board with this number 4. And we don't. Right? Are we in agreement that we don't?
We're missing a few steps.
We're missing a few steps. Because what we've discovered is these things are not quite usable, or don't quite meet the complete need. So the question here is it still within the scope of our group to say, look, we recommend, board, that you tap the admin team or subset, you know, to work with architects on this, you know, the updated needs and requests that we're looking for, and then bring that back, or what, Craig, do you have thoughts?
Well, I think you have, as Diane said, you write a report, 4 or 5 pages, narrative. So I think it's important that, I think it was Colleen who said, you know, it became evident that the June timeline wasn't going to happen. So we can live with that. But what this committee did do was look at old data, old information, 2018, speak to each stakeholder group where there were parents and students. You could have more student input. You had the focus groups that talked about lunch. So you have this this framework of multi-sourced information that is all pointing in the same direction. And what that report should say is, although we haven't completed everything, we can say, based on this framework and all the resources that you had previously and all the new information we gathered this time, we believe we need a bond to support A, B, and C, and maybe not necessarily E, F, and G. And you give that to and at this point, we recommend that you get either architects or other professionals to see how those 3 or 4 needs can be put into a package. And I think if you can give that to the board, then they carry the ball from there.
And I think if I'm on the board, I'm gonna wanna see something, which we have. We know we really would like to have an updated theater. We know we'd like to have a new cafeteria. We know we'd like to do something with the gym, possibly extend the gym. And here are 2 options that the community really seems like we need for the fields. So keep it simple for the school board. This is what all the information we've collected comes down to, you know, what we know and what we don't know. We know we want a new theater, we know we want a new cafeteria, we know we need to upgrade the fields. Here are 2 options. And the gym is kind of the wild card in my mind. We haven't really vetted out what we need for square footage for the gym, how it's gonna expand, or if it's gonna be a separate building, right? But if I'm on the school board, I'm gonna wanna see a little something laid out.
And we can say what really came to our attention was the gym is inadequate. And again, we don't have to know the answer, but we would love to see some solutions on that.
And that's part of what they can determine. I mean, a lot of, I look at, Falmouth paid a firm, I think about $250,000 to look 20 years in the future. And so they got it mapped out for 20 years. We're gonna do this piece now. And then when that bond comes off the books, we're gonna do this piece, and we're gonna do that piece, and they're gonna do that piece. And that might be what the board chooses to do with what you bring them. You know, we have conclusive support from different groups between 2016 and today that these are the 3 most important things. And the board might say, you know what, we're gonna do these 2 things and kick that other thing down 7 years from now or something. But I think write the narrative with the recommendation to the board. And then I don't think we need to come back as a group, but if we put it in a Google Doc, that everyone gets to contribute on the draft. And then once that's complete, then we can give it to the full board. Is that making sense to anyone?
And I know we've put a lot of Tuesdays in, and now we have a group holding a lot of, you know, we've been a good audience for a lot of information. And so we might be a good audience to come back when something appears to say, hey, what do we think?
Does this match what we heard?
Does this match what we heard? Do we, you know, is this? But in the meantime, it feels like the ball goes, we recommend to the board that the ball goes to the admin team to take forward with what we've learned.
It's not gonna be the admin, it's not the admin team that
I'm
will
using
design
the-
this work. It's gonna be a kind of a building committee is what we will move on to, is what I see. So it could be a subset, small subset of this group, it could be just some, you know, some administration. I'm not thinking it's, tons of people at the table.
Yeah,
You know, to get this work started with the architects, and at different points, it may be different people at the table as we're looking at different,
I like
things to bring it all together. But I think for me, it's presenting this information in a format to the board for them to say, agree with us that what the next steps are. And so that to me would be the outcome of giving the information to the board and knowing that our next step is to go meet with the architects and start designing some of these things and looking at what the scope is from what we've heard. Start to get some pricing and designs, and so that we can start really talking realistically about it.
And we know that one of the architects we probably wouldn't use again simply because the last time we used them, we ordered something very specific and they brought us their special of the day. Well, that's not what we want. And so I think we can.
Yeah, we have a new architect,
Yeah.
we wouldn't go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, we wouldn't go back to that.
So write a report. A couple
Okay.
people make the first draft, and then all 12 of us look at the draft and get the weigh in, and then bring it to the board. And then at that point, the board will say,
Agree with next step.
appoint a small group and hire architects to make new drawings with new prices and new schemata.
Okay. Does that feel gut check? Does anyone have terrible angst about that? Does that feel appropriate?
I think some of the issues have been around safety, and what's the justification of that? You know, I think some needs backing before we even go to the board and say, based on the fact that we had this amount of accidents, or ambulance was called this many times, or whatever the case may be. I'm thinking of one issue right now, but for pretty much everything. I think that's the missing link here. What's the justification for any of this?
Well,
I mean, just because we had a meeting and just because public came and spoke,
yeah.
is that enough justification to say we're ready to go forward, or?
Well, it is, because we were called together because that decision was already made. So we, you know, I feel like we are hearing a lot of need and doing a good job of listening to folks and letting them speak their piece to us, so we do it right. But I do keep going back and reminding myself too, the decision to put forth a bond is made. So, you know, we don't have to spend a lot of time in our report relitigating that, but to just say, we've been tasked with this is what we heard from folks, this is the plans we'd recommend getting a look at, and then, it's up to the community. Then I think we need to get the public really involved again, and say, okay, now we have something to show you. It's just a step towards that. So,
Well, if you don't want to do it now, you can do it later, but you do need justification for some of this stuff. Yeah.
Well, I think part of the justification is that the community feels a need for it. I mean, that's why they
I'm
came.
sorry?
I said, I think the justification is that the community has brought it up and they came and they talked to us about what's not working with the current.
Larger people don't constitute a community. It has to be much larger input if a community is going to buy into this.
Well, that's
So you need more participation. So in order to have participation, you need some more information or more facts. It's not just, here, we need this, okay, now give us the money so we can get this. Because, but why? Why do we need it? I mean, I'm not trying to stop any of this. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure, I think something's missing. That's just my opinion. And the missing part is, why? What's the justification? Or, even the cost,
Well, that's why we're still working on, this is still very much a work in
Right.
progress, right? We don't have numbers, we don't have designs, we definitely
I
just
agree,
need
but
more.
I just want to keep in mind, somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to come up with that.
Yeah, and like this is our
Somewhere along
document from 2014, when we did some of the projects and had a bond, and there's tons of that information that you're talking about that we need to share with the community on why this is needed, what the details on the debt, I mean, all that stuff we will need to absolutely get out to the community and share with them so they have all that information. We went into details and designs, and they had all the specs on this, and they were able to vote after they had all this information. So, that is part of the whole process too,
yeah,
getting that out. And then these were very successful. I think 3 out of 4 of these all passed. So there was some really good information in there that we were able to share, and we would need to do that, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's newsletters to them, it's presentations, it's diagrams, it's whys.
One thing I might include in there, to me it's clear, but I'm not sure if somebody else reading this outside of our group is, this reads a little bit like, we're asking for information from the architect, like updated designs, cost enable, but we still have questions that we would like to have answered through that process, but also just more generally. So I wonder if we want to include that, like move forward and work with an architect to answer, because some of this isn't even an architect, like the turf question and those pieces. Like we have questions as well as the unique need for updated designs, costs, etc. To make sure we're not leaving those unanswered, we're sharing that with the board.
Like what kind of questions?
Well, is the turf piece within the architect, or is that a research piece that we
because
need more?
it's a field architect that totally designs just fields. They're different architects.
They're different.
So that's
Okay.
their specialty. So they're gonna give you every piece of information that you need to make an informed decision on going with A, B, C, or D.
Okay.
Here's your options. Here's your pricing for it, here's your longevity of it, here's your maintenance costs, here's your, you'll have everything from A to Z
Okay.
from the they're the specialists, absolutely.
So, architect specialist, okay.
Question, you say you already have the key architect?
Yeah, we already went out to
selected.
bid and got the architect.
Okay, now what about all of the other architects or engineers that would have to be called in?
They're
Who
part of
selected them?
they're part of that architect team.
Okay,
They
so that,
have the
they're gonna
engineers,
select
they
then the
have
proper
all those.
engineers.
They're all part, in most cases,
Yeah.
they work for that architect.
Okay.
They have a full service, it's not individual subs or, engineers and things like that, absolutely, they're all on the team.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have to coordinate, the two separate architects, because in many instances, it might be, if we're putting in, and then I'm just throwing this out, I'm not saying anything, but if they do fields, they may not do the bathroom. But we need to coordinate that, we need to make sure if they're gonna take the, infrastructure for the bathrooms underneath the fields, so they have to work well together as, on certain projects too. So it might not just be the field architect, but it may overlap with the building architect, or how does that work? And when we start placing things throughout the site, we wanna make sure that we're all sitting at the same table and hearing the same message and hearing the same project.
Okay, so on the selection, you're gonna rely on the main architectural firm that you're selecting to select, and they're going to contract out to all the subs if they don't have them in-house. You're gonna
And we've
rely on that.
already done that process.
And
We've
these-
already gone through that
Okay,
process.
and you already have the engineers on board, and they've come in to look at the HVAC systems and give cost analysis on that.
Totally separate project, but yes.
Okay.
That was attached to the East Wing project that we did with ESSER funds. So that's a totally separate project.
When is that gonna be worked in then?
We will have to the board will have to talk about that. We just had some information recently, so we're in the process of analyzing what that means.
Okay.
So yes, you will hear about that as well, because yes.
So a month from today is the March 6th school board meeting. And today is what? February 6th? Oh, okay, so that's 4 weeks to think about writing the first draft, get this whole group to critique the draft, and then have it for the school board on March 6th. Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, especially given that the next business meeting's tomorrow, so that's
Can't be really
completely
far.
unreasonable.
We could stay up late.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely report out tomorrow, but yeah, I think we continue to hold the line that we want to do a good job, and the way to get the community behind this is to do it right, but also show due diligence, so then we don't start getting into trouble of like, we're not doing it. So I think of having that for March 6th. Do you think that prevents us from moving forward with bringing some of this information to the architects that are already in place, or do you think that could happen at the same
I
time?
would want the board to meet that.
We want.
I mean, I think that we need to give them time to have a meeting. Like, I don't think I can call them tomorrow and say, can we have a meeting next week? So I'd rather have the board sign off on saying, yes, we're ready for the next steps and get moving. Like, call them in the interim and say, I'm gonna call you on March 7th and say, yes, we got board approval. But we've been playing this with them every time we jump, we call them and say, oh, can we meet? Oh, no, we're not meeting, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna, so I would be hesitant about doing that before we have the March 6th meeting, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was the part for me that I felt like was a little gray in our objectives, that, we are supposed to be getting some answers, and then we're coming up against, well, we've got as far as we can without, I can check in with Sam.
But to me, it's spending money, so I
Yeah.
wanna make sure that
Yeah, so if we're
that's what it
asking,
comes down to for me.
if we're asking for a bunch of architectural work that might cost X number of dollars and we have no way of doing that, that would have to be the board's prerogative.
Yeah, I wanna make sure that they signed off on it,
Okay.
that we're very transparent about that.
So we'll give an update tomorrow verbally, then we'll work on this on the side prepared for a meaty presentation on the March 6th
Yeah.
meeting. And
I think we'll be surprised how quick it will go by, that we'll be
Oh,
We'll be
yeah.
on
I
this
know.
already,
Yeah, that
so.
Tuesday has been coming around like lightning.
Right, so I think it will happen pretty quick.
Yeah,
Time is
I
just,
think you're right.
So,
I think you're right. So,
Do we have a cost of this architectural fee to get the initial architectural fee? To review any of this stuff, or do we do a full-blown hire, and what if they charge us, is what we pay? I mean,
That's what
do we have
we-
an idea?
Architectural fees you can't negotiate. They are what they are under state law. If you hire, you go through the RFP process to hire the architects, and fees are not part of the process. So, yes, it would be what they hire, and it's part of the design work of doing these projects. There may be they may say, well, to get you to this stage, it's going to be this, and they had given us a contract for that, which we signed. We only use some of that, so there is still some out there, but the money was from last year, so we don't still have that money set aside. We only did the work that we did up until that point, but I'm not sure what's left on that contract that the board did approve. So there may be some initial contract to still do some more work. But traditionally, you would have a lot of it all rolled into everything. So we will have to make sure that we set aside some contingency or capital improvement money for this year to finish some of that work, to get us to a referendum. I know that was kind of a roundabout answer, but.
All right, so we made it. Write this up. We have, while not perfect on every point, general consensus that we would love to see what gym, fields, cafeteria, and performing arts space would look like for our district. And we will ask the board to move on that. Yeah. Meeting adjourned at 7:28. I hope you'll join me in headed to the gym.